Following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Steve Rosenberg, Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Your Money. Welcome to Your Money. Good morning. Sherri Goss and Becca Wilton are here to take your calls. 478-742-0940. So give us a call and let us know what's on your mind. Anyways, we are here. So I've had a ragged week. I'm like half here. Randy took us on a camping trip Saturday. I didn't know we were going to the woods. I didn't know what the plans were. I just got in the car and packed a few clothes and it's like halfway there, I'm like, where are we going? And we're going to this place where I went fly fishing. And so we get up to the campground. Bottom line, he took me on a hiking trail that he found out yesterday from his guide that he was fishing with is called the Widowmaker. That one that we went up that I felt like I was going to fall most of the time and go roll down a hill and hit my head on a stump.
Wow.
It's like, next time he takes me on a trip, I'm going to do some research. I just got in the car with a few clothes. I'm like, hey, where are we going?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
But anyways, crazy. So, anyways, what you got to head us out?
All right. Well, let's start back to our stimulus checks. So a lot of people have probably gotten these in the mail or direct deposited. But if you haven't, the IRS can adjust any stimulus check money you're owed when you file your 2020 tax return. So it's going to give you a second chance to get the money from those first two stimulus checks.
As a credit.
Yes, as a credit onto the tax return. Those first two payments were $1,200 and $600 per person. And so you can claim any unpaid funds through the recovery rebate credit on this year's tax return. So if you have an accountant or a CPA doing your taxes, check with them. If you didn't get your first two checks or if you're doing it yourself, you should be able to find a lot of help through TurboTax or H&R Block or whatever you're using online. And then also, just remember that the tax deadline has been extended to May 17th, so we have a little bit more time to get our tax returns done. Otherwise, that'd be like, next week they'd be due.
Right. Time is flying.
Yes.
So SBDC, Small Business Development Corporation, sent me an email this last week because they're offering a program called Start Smart. And I have a client that went through this. So it's 8 modules, 4 weeks, 2 sessions a week for 2 hours. I have a client that went to this when he opened his business. He was in the process of business development and found out about the program, and it really turned the corner for him in helping him get his head around everything from the business concept, researching the market, developing financial forecasts to improve your chance of success, developing a thorough practical business plan, and ongoing consultation. So it's only $99.
That's a good deal.
It's a really good deal for 8 classes. So it starts, let me see here. What is the starting session?
Is it over there? May
4th through May 27th. Thank you so much. I tell you, I'm not 100% today.
But that sounds great for people that, have a dream or a vision and want to get started, but they just don't really know maybe what they're getting into. Can really give them a good picture of that, and they'll know if it's something they really should be doing maybe or shouldn't, or at least give them good guidance to get them started.
So I went out last night for an appetizer at Oliver's, and there was a couple sitting next to me, and we started talking, and they're going to open a boutique downtown. And I told them, I said, there's already 7
wow,
downtown, and there's no advertising. I don't see anything about them anywhere. And I don't understand how they all think they're going to make it. And their target market is all college students.
Oh, wow. Boutiques for college students?
Right. Because they think everybody's going to come downtown and be shopping. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that college students are out shopping downtown. And 3 of them are on a street that is, you can't even drive down. There's no parking. On First Street Lane. 3, brand new. I saw them. I went for a walk the other night and I saw all of them and I was like, what on earth? So, you have good ideas, but you've got to get some help to make sure that it makes sense and make sure that you have a plan and not just go into a bunch of debt trying to open something that is a feel-good, something you want. You have to make sure that it's something other people are going to want, and you have to have some kind of marketing plan to let people know you even exist.
Right.
It's huge.
It's like, who are these people's target audiences out of 7 boutiques? Are they all looking for the same type of client? Are they different? But how would you know if they aren't advertising?
I've been in all of them, and they're all going after college students, and I don't see any of them sustaining themselves because it's very cookie cutter. The products that they're selling is not unique or different or anything. It's the same stuff I could go to Target and buy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to keep an eye on those and let us know how they're doing down the road.
But so if you're interested in SBDC Start Smart, if you have a business idea and you want to go through a program that will make you seriously think through what you're doing, you need to give them a call. Just Google Georgia SBDC. You want to go to the Macon office. Their office is right next to our office across from River Crossing Mall. They're really fantastic. And these are the same people that helped us for a year to buy Pittman Automotive. They worked for us for a year for free to buy that business. They helped recreate the books. They helped create the whole plan. I mean, they were very concerned about us buying that business and wanted to make sure that we were going to be okay and successful. And that's what they're all about. And they're all great people. So SBDC, Macon, Georgia, check it out. Start Smart.
Sounds like a wonderful resource.
Yep.
All right. Were you going to talk about Macon being one of the best places to work from home?
Yeah, so this is a big deal. So back when the kids were little, we lived in Clayton County, and I was working in Atlanta, driving back and forth, and Randy had his own business. He had a sign business that he was doing while he was going to college to finish his degree. And there was an article in Jet Magazine that became so huge that the influx of people moving to Clayton County was massive. I mean, the county exploded, housing exploded, everything exploded because Clayton County was like the county to live in. And now we have PC Magazine says Macon is one of the best work from home cities. And I am kind of shocked at this one. I don't. It says the Computer Magazine listed Macon as one of the best work from home cities in 2021 alongside the likes of Daytona Beach and Philadelphia. Says, so this lady, they're interviewing her. I work for a company based in New York, so they're paying me like a New York salary, but I still get to pay Macon rent and have Macon expenses. Macon's home prices with a median price of $24,000 are much lower than Atlanta's. More buyers are taking an interest in homes that have office space. So realtors are saying that's one of the number one things that they're seeing. And home prices are up everywhere, so they're probably not as bad here as they are other places. But Macon has an attractive setting, plenty of coffee shops, restaurants that aren't chains, residents that are involved in arts and education. Macon is a prime place to work from home because there are several companies that provide high-speed internet, which is a problem in a lot of places. It says when you're buying a house, it used to be location, but it is near a good school system, whatever. Nowadays, it's internet.
Isn't that crazy the way the world's changed? But
Right.
when I was reading that, I was like, well, that makes sense. If you're going to move, especially if you're working from home, that's going to be the top thing you're looking for to make sure you got internet.
Right. And there are really good private schools here, too. So if you wanted a private school for your kids.
And I think something in the article, too, mentioned the fact that it's, close enough to Atlanta. So especially people that are in Atlanta can get that Atlanta pay. But then, you could commute up there one day a week if you had to. But I guess it's more convenient from Atlanta. So
right.
I don't know.
I just was shocked at this, but this is going to be a big deal. So your house prices are going to go through the roof.
Everyone's going to move to Macon.
All right. And then I was going to tell you about Fired Works. So Randy's on the board of the Macon Arts Alliance, and we help sponsor their annual Fired Works program. It's running through the 17th of April. It's 10 to 4 a.m. It's in the little round building in Central City Park. It used to be a $5 charge to get in the door. They're waiving that this year because of not touching money. And if you want to donate $5, you can, but you don't have to pay anything to get in. We went Thursday night for a grand opening. The pottery work that is in there is staggering. What people are making, and it's people from all over Georgia. It's not just people that are local. It's all over the state of Georgia. They bring all of their pottery and all of their clay work. I can't even explain it. You'd have to go look at it, but if you need something fun to go do today, I would definitely go stroll through that. You might even want to buy something, which helps everybody. Making Arts Alliance makes a little cut off of that. And the arts community has really struggled through this whole COVID because you can't go anywhere. You can't look at anything. How are they supposed to sell anything? It's been really, really hard on all of it. So go check it out. Round building at Central City Park through the 17th, 9 to 4. Is that what I said?
10 to 4.
10 to 4. Thank you so much. Anyways, it's really amazing what people can create. And the arts is a big part of downtown. And then the second thing, so I'm on the board of the Middle Georgia Library System, and there are 3 things you need to know about that. So they get lots of grants because the director is phenomenal. And she goes out and finds money and does programs that nobody else is doing nationwide. So they just bought a bunch of Chromebooks, and you can check out a Chromebook and sit from anywhere in the library. And here's the problem. So when they had the lockdown, they had to shut down half of the computers because you had to socially distance. So then half of the computers were not available. So they went ahead and bought Chromebooks that you can go sit in a corner somewhere in the library and do your resume, apply for jobs, do schoolwork, homework, whatever people need to do. So that's, or make telemedicine appointments. I mean, they're available in all the libraries in Middle Georgia. They're also accepting applications for patrons to participate in open access, which is unheard of. Very few libraries in America are doing this, but she follows all of the libraries that are like cutting edge. And so open access is self-service. So you can go in the library you can scan into the door with your card, you go inside, and you can be there outside of normal operating hours. And so if you have children that don't like crowds, or you don't want to be around other people because of health concerns, you can go use open access and get in the library when there are no other patrons there.
That's
you have
amazing.
to apply for it, right? And so the first thing people asked was, well, aren't people going to just steal a bunch of books? Well, all you have to do is check them out. And so it's self-service checkout is the next thing that they did. So when I was in Colorado 2 years ago, babysitting the grandkid, I took him to the library for a day, and I was shocked and amazed when I saw this lady walking up to the library in Colorado with a giant red wagon piled with books and her 3 daughters. And she went to this kiosk, which was on the outside of the building, and she literally just set the books on this thing, and it checked them all back in.
That's
It's
amazing.
self-checkout. And so we went in the library, and I checked out books, and I just literally took the pile of books, and I set them on this metal stand, and it reads the barcodes, and you put in your library card, and it automatically checks them out. You can automatically check them in, check them out, without anybody physically having to help you do that. And so you basically take the staff that was doing that, and you can move them to something else, higher level work. Phenomenal. They have that. So you can do open access, self-checkout books. And then the next thing they have is Memory Lab, which is new. So this lab provides equipment for digitizing home movies, scanning photographs, and converting audiovisual content images from legacy media to digital.
Oh, how cool.
Yes. So you have a bunch of old stuff and you want to move it to a chip or a card. You can do it there. And they have someone who works in the Memory Lab that will help you understand how to do it. But the services that we have in Middle Georgia are just astounding at the library. So and then we're in the process of stopping fines on children's checkouts because the children have they can't get to the library on their own. Parents have to drive them there, so why punish them for having a fine? So we're working on stopping fines for children's books, and they're working on, if your child is in public school, their public school lunch card is going to become their library card.
Wow.
So every child will have a library card automatically.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
The next thing. It's unbelievable what they're doing. Jennifer's amazing.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's really great.
Well, a couple other things related to our communities. The Dogwood Festival in Perry is canceled this weekend because of weather, so that's kind of sad. I'm sure the vendors that had all their stuff set and ready to go are sad. And then we also had gotten an email about the Vector Center. The Vector Center is the Georgia Veterans Education Career Transition Resource Center. And the email was about a free 2-day public speaking workshop. So I don't know if that would apply to a lot of people, but that's April 14th and 15th. So it's just one of the things that they do for the public. So it's a free public speaking workshop. But the Vector Center themselves, they have so many programs. They offer courses through the following technical certificate of credit and associate of applied science programs through Central Georgia Tech. And a lot of these are actually online. So if you have a family or you're working full time, you can try and arrange that and work online. They also have an Ag Tech to Success program. They have on-site courses. They have an air conditioner technical assistant, welders, commercial electrical, construction technicians. It was just amazing, all the different programs they offer. They have an IT boot camp certification program. They got a lot of different services. They do career advisement and counseling. They help with financial aid. They'll help you with your resume, interviewing skills, and they help find employment. They have a really cool testing center that you can do paper and online testing. I've actually taken a couple tests there, and it's very nice, and the people are wonderful and helpful. There's a Veterans Business Outreach Center. Provides entrepreneurs training for the Boots to Business and the Reboot training. So it helps people transition from military or military spouses and veterans, small business owners and entrepreneurs transition from, previous employment or previous work into maybe a new business and creating their own business. They also have some lunch and learn workshops that will help you with job searches, interviews, post-interview actions, and networking. So just reading through that, there were so many things they offered, and you can just go online. It's the Vector, VECTR Center in Middle Georgia, and you can see all the different opportunities they have there.
And it's in Warner Robins, just up the road from our office. It's off Russell Parkway. So I have clients that came in about a month or two, it's probably 2 months ago, and the husband served during Vietnam, but he served in the European theater, and he has literally at least 8 of the presumptive disabilities from Vietnam. I don't know.
Goodness.
I mean, it's horrific. And I said, have you ever applied for VA disability? He said, yeah, a long time ago, and they told me I didn't qualify because of where I served. I said, I'm not so sure about that because they keep expanding. There are stateside bases where if you served during Vietnam, but you were in the States because they were testing.
Oh, wow.
They were testing all the what's it called?
The chemicals and the warfare and...
Yeah, that stuff. They were testing all of that, and there were people developing it and testing it and around it. And so they've expanded the VA disability to those people. They've expanded it to the blue water veterans, the naval ships that were 12 miles off the coast because the planes were coming off and on that ship that were dusting everything. So everybody on the ship had contact.
Could have been exposed to it.
Yeah, contact. And so he was skeptical, and he goes, yeah, I've already applied before, and they turned me down. They said it wasn't eligible for anything. I said, I think you need to go ask again because it's really changed. So he went to the Vector Center. You have to make an appointment with a disability person. They went to the Vector Center last month, and they're filing claims for 2 disabilities that
wonderful.
He has that they believe are related to Agent Orange. Sorry, that's what I was trying to get out of my head. Agent Orange exposure. So if you're in that ship, if you're in that boat, and you think that you don't qualify for anything, you need to go back and ask. And the other thing that we're seeing is people in their 70s that are developing PTSD that existed their whole lifetime, but it just is emerging now. And I was asking a therapist about this. I said, I don't understand how people are waiting and they have PTSD, but it doesn't show up until they're in their 70s. And she said, yeah, while you're working and you're busy, your mind can suppress a lot of stuff. And once you retire and you're sitting in your living room in 4 walls, it all comes surging forward. So if you are experiencing that, you need to go get some help. And you need to go to the Vector Center and talk to a person to give you some help with that. And maybe talk to the VA about a doctor appointment.
There is help out there.
There's a lot of help out there. The Dublin VA has great behavioral health. The Macon VA has great doctors. We just flipped Randy over to the VA about 6 months ago because I didn't trust that all these different people prescribing medications to him were on the same page. Because they're all different and nobody seemed to be looking at the whole person. And we went to the VA, and within the first 30 minutes, they looked at his list of drugs and they said, there are 3 drugs on this list that you can't take together.
Wow.
And nobody else looked at it. I knew something was not right. And so they've fixed it, and he's way better. So don't be afraid. Go to the VA, get some help. because that's what they're there for. And they've expanded, they've really expanded under Trump, and they're phenomenal. Our experience has been incredible, way better than I expected,
That's
honestly.
great. That's great.
So, yes. Cool.
The COVID assistance that got brought up a couple weeks ago, and FEMA's been working on a program. And did you find an article that had more details about it?
I did.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just found it this morning. So, first of all, they have a fraud alert on this article. It says, we have received reports of scammers reaching out to people offering to register them for funeral assistance.
Oh, how horrible.
FEMA has not sent any such notification, and we do not contact people prior to them registering for assistance. So please don't respond. Anybody that calls you offering something, just assume it's a scam. Assume it.
Yes, 99% of the time it is.
Right? So the COVID-19 pandemic has brought overwhelming grief to many families. At FEMA, our mission is to help people before, during, and after disasters. We are dedicated to helping ease some of the financial stress and burden caused by the virus. So FEMA is going to begin accepting applications for funeral assistance on Monday, April 12th, through our dedicated call center. So who is eligible? To be eligible for funeral assistance, you meet these conditions. So the death must have occurred in the United States, including U.S. territories and the District of Columbia. The death certificate must indicate the death was attributed to COVID-19. The applicant must be a U.S. citizen, non-citizen national, or qualified alien who incurred funeral expenses after January 20th, 2020. So it goes all the way back to last year. There is no requirement for the deceased person to have been a U.S. citizen, non-citizen, or a qualified alien. That's confusing.
Yeah, because it says the applicant must be. So I
Right.
guess you're the applicant if you're filing for your loved one.
Yes.
But then if the loved one doesn't happen to be a U.S. citizen, but they died in the U.S.,
Right.
then I guess they qualify.
So the applications are available. You have to call. So 844-684-6333. And if you don't get that and you don't have a pen to write it down, just email me, Sherri, Sherri, @rfmoney.com, and I will send you the email.
I think it said they asked for like the death certificate and your proof of the funeral expenses. So receipts and
Yes.
stuff of what you paid for, and then proof that you didn't get, like, you didn't have a funeral fund or some sort of, program that actually covered all of it, that you had to pay for it out of the pocket.
Yes. So, what a country.
So we want to talk about capital gains next?
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. So we had a client that had asked some questions about capital gains, and I found a good article. It talked about the differences. The Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 made some changes, and you get an exemption. So if you're single, you won't pay any capital gain tax on the first $250,000 profit, and married couples get a $500,000 exemption.
On the sale of a home.
Yes. So if
Primary
you sell
residence.
your primary home, and you it's only allowable once every 2 years, then you can get that credit, and it's your excess over your cost basis. So if you bought the house for $100,000, you sold it for $200,000, you have a $100,000 gain. You're well within the exemption port, so you don't have to worry about paying taxes on it. There's some stipulations for it to be your primary residence. You have to have occupied the residence for at least 2 of the last 5 years. So it would even work if you had a rental and you lived there 1 year and then you rented it for 3 years and you went back and lived in it the 5th year. So as long as you've lived in it as your primary residence 2 of the last 5 years, then it'll count as primary residence and you'll meet that qualification. So if you have any questions about this, let us know. We'd be happy to help. You just don't want to pay taxes on anything you don't have to. There's sometimes there's some great tax programs out there, and there's way to get some exemptions and exceptions for it. So there's a lot of details as far as there's some exceptions for certain situations to the 2 of the 5 years, such as divorce, military deployment. So there's rules about when the sales have to be reported. But get with somebody, your tax advisor, or call us, and we will be happy to help you.
So I had people emailing me, I don't know, 6 months ago. I can't even remember anymore. Sending me videos asking about buying gold and silver coins because they thought that the market was going to tank with Joe Biden as president. And so I had to do some digging around. And there's a coin club that operates out of Macon. And I contacted them, and they told me which coin dealer they recommend. So I called their coin dealer because these people were talking about buying gold and silver coins as a hedge against the impending doom of Joe Biden. And
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah. And I'm like, I don't know that that's true, because he's going to spend a bunch of money, because his whole campaign was, I'm going to spend money on this, and this. So that will drive the market up. So anyway, so I called the coin dealer and I talked to this really nice guy, and I asked him how things were going. And he said, well, we're out of coins because everybody's buying up all the gold and silver coins. We don't have any right now. It's going to take us 3 to 4 weeks to even get more.
That's crazy.
And he said he had a guy come in the previous week with $100,000 cash.
Holy cow.
And bought coins because he thinks the economy is going to tank. And so he's investing. And I said, the problem I have is right now, gold and silver are at a peak. And so, I mean, this is what happened back during the recession. They peaked and people were interested in buying. And so they're buying at the top. And then once the economy does well and everybody sees that it's going to do well, then the prices are going to pull back again. And he goes, yeah, but it's still a good deal. And I said, but they're buying it at a peak and they're paying a premium because they're buying coins. I don't quite understand this philosophy. And he said, well, all we know is that people want to have something they can hold in their hands. They want physical gold and silver because it gives them a sense of security. I said, well, that's an expensive sense of security. And he's like, well, it's what people want and it's what they're doing. So
seems like goats or chickens might be more helpful if the world comes to an end. You
Right?
need something to barter with. At some point, no one's going to want your gold coins when you're trying
Right.
to find fresh water and
It's not
food.
it's not going to be worth anything if we have a total meltdown in this country. The worst thing would be an EMP that fries all the electronics.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That would be really bad. Your gold coins are not going to be worth anything. Yeah, water would be number one. Pharmaceuticals would be a good thing to stock up on.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
You could sell drugs. Yeah.
Side
that'd be minor.
business, side gig.
But anyways, I just found it fascinating. So what I learned from him, though, I said, so what about the capital gains on these coins? So people are buying it at the top, and then are they going to turn around and sell it at the bottom? I mean, I don't understand. He goes, no, people tend to hold coins for the long term. And I have clients that have piles of coins they've inherited from family members that did this.
Wow.
And so he says the deal is if you come to a dealer like us, we don't record what you paid for it, and we don't report what you get for it when you sell it back to us. And so there are no capital gains on coins if you go through a local shop. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, because there should be capital gains on, stocks, bonds, precious metals, jewelry,
Right.
real estate, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I guess if you do it on the down low,
Through a shop or through a
local
pawn shop. Pawn shop's not going to report your jewelry, what it sold for,
Yeah.
or what they paid you. I thought that was fascinating. But anyways, so I'm not recommending buying gold and silver coins, just in case you didn't get that clearly from my mouth. It's not what I would
Yes,
be
we
doing.
do not think that's the best course of action.
Especially when it's at a peak. Wait till it drops.
So I had a client this week. He was about 30, and he had some questions about saving for a house and student loans. So he's been out of college about 6 years, and he had paid down a great chunk of his student loans, but still had some left, and he had money in savings, and he'd been looking at the house market, and he had a couple houses he was going to put bids on, but his realtor wasn't quick enough and didn't get offers in on those houses. But he wanted to know what would be, the best course of action. So kind of walked him through some different thought processes, and I thought I'd share this today. It may not be everybody that's listening, but maybe you have a kid or a grandkid that's thinking about buying a house. So, for him, he'd been in his job for 6 years, and I asked, are you planning on staying where you are? Is that something that you want to do? He said, well, I'm actually actively looking for a new job. I said, well, maybe it's not the best time to buy a house then. I said, are you going to stay in the area? And he said, no, I've applied in places across the country and, Colorado, California, some different places. I have one really promising lead that's right about where I'm at. So hopefully I'll stay here. I said, well, that'd be the first thing I do is get your job settled and make
Right.
sure that's where
Yes.
you really want to be. And then I said, is there anyone else to consider? Do you have a significant other, a girlfriend, anything? And he said that he did have a girlfriend, but he was buying this house on his own. It was for himself, and then maybe someday she can move in. So that's always good if you think you want to do this. If you have other people to consider, they might want to go shopping with you, or if you buy something and they don't like it down the road, it could create a problem. And I, asked him how his house payment would compare to rent. If he had an emergency fund, are you buying an older house or a new house? Because if you buy an older house and there's a lot of repair work to be done, do you have that emergency fund set up to do some of those repairs or renovations? And will you be prepared if things break? Because when you rent, it's really nice. Even if you need like a light bulb, you just call your landlord and they come fix whatever the problems are. So it gave him a lot to think about if he was ready to buy a house. And then I said, you know, if you pay off that student loan, the chunk of it, you still would have a little bit left for your down payment, but you wouldn't have enough for the 5% down on the program you've looked at. So I said it'd always be better to, at that point, to keep making your payments on your student loans, keep working on your credit history, but with the chunk of money, kind of protect it so that way you have options. If a house does come up that you just fall in love with and you want to buy, then you'll have the money and you'll be ready for that.
In the same place he has a job.
Yes, when you actually figure out what your job's going to be.
Yeah.
And so he liked that idea because he really had thought about paying off the student loans. And I said, at this point, he's paid like 75% of his student loans down. And I said, the only reason I would really suggest paying them all the way off at that point was if it was emotionally a struggle. Some people just don't do well with debt and want to get out of debt as fast as possible. And if that's your goal, then maybe that's what you need to focus on. But with the house, I said, just be patient. And he was all about the rates. And, you know, the rates are so low. And so we kind of talked through that the housing market has been exploding, which is great. And if you own a house, if you own a house and you want to sell it, you're in a great time to do that. But I told him, you know, I've seen people that have come in and told us they had their house on the market for $300,000 and they got offers and ended up sold it for $325,000. So I told him, even though you're getting a better rate, you may be buying more house than it's actually worth. And then, you know, in a few years when things cool down and the value could drop a little bit, then, you know, you have your houses, you may owe more on it than it's even worth. Hopefully the market keeps going, but there's always can be pullbacks. So just something to consider, to rush into buying a house just because the rates are low. You still may be paying more. In the long run, it may be, you know, come out even, or you may actually even pay more if you're, you know, spend an extra $20,000 or $30,000 on the house just to get a lower rate now.
And the other thing is where you buy matters. So out in Colorado, our daughter and her husband, we helped them move into a house that was basically a condemned property, and they were paying $1,200 a month rent for a 1950s trashed out, no closets.
Wow.
No closets, nothing upgraded since the 50s, because the market out there is so insane. And they bought a house because they didn't want to renew the lease. The rent was going to go up $200 a month on the same garbage house.
Wow.
So they bought a house for like $300,000, and it's a ridiculously stupid house. The layout is horrible. The yard was horrible. I mean, they've had to spend a ton of money fixing it up. Well, now they're on a path to pay it off in 15 years because they've changed. They refinanced it, and they're saving
that's great
hundreds of dollars a month. And so they're piling all that in. And they're planning on staying there. They've spent so much money on it, they're not going to get their money back out of it unless they stay there. And so it's really a hard thing. And the other thing, so our first house that we bought was a condemned property, but because Randy was a veteran, we were able to do a VA loan, and it was a assumable VA loan, which is the only one we've ever seen. And so most people didn't have the capability to do it. And so we bought a house. It was $10,000 down, and our monthly payment was $200.
Oh, wow.
And this was back when I was a therapist and Randy was in school, and we had 2 little kids, but the windows were broken out. There was no heater air. There was garbage. The yard was 6 feet deep with weeds, and there were old appliances all over the yard.
Oh,
the
my
people
goodness.
had just been throwing trash in the yard and it was some kind of drug heads that were living in there.
Wow.
The walls were black with smoke. They were running heaters that were emitting black into the space. I mean, space heaters with like oil or whatever. I mean, the whole thing was a mess, and so nobody wanted it. Well, we took it on, and we just went to Lowe's every day. Like, how do I fix this? How do I do that? And we learned how to do stuff. That was the first time we'd ever done sheetrock. First time
goodness.
we had to hire an electrician. Randy did some of it. We had to get somebody in to help with that. I had to get somebody to install an air conditioner, but we did the roof ourselves. You should have seen us up on the roof of this house. I'd never been on a roof of a house in my life, and we're up there putting shingles on. It was terrifying.
I bet.
But we did it all. We'd go to Lowe's and say, how do we do this? And the people would say, okay, you need this, this, and this. But you can really do well if you can find a fixer-upper and you can do the work yourself. Great. But if you find a fixer-upper and you have to hire people right now to do all that work when everybody's renovating houses because they've been on the lockdown, you are not going to make money when you sell that house. You have to be willing to get dirty and get some sweat equity in the property because now, I mean, the way things are going right now is just too crazy. But if you could find something like that, if your guy could find it, if he was willing to do some work on his own and learn how to do some stuff, that'd probably be the best thing they could find, if there's even any fixer-uppers left.
Right. And the materials, the expense, they've gone up.
Gone through
They've
the roof.
doubled and tripled. So like you said, you want to do your research before you get into something like
Yeah.
that. And are you capable of doing those, and are you willing to learn? Because a lot of people aren't really willing to put in the time to learn. And then can you afford the materials and all the expenses that are going to go around it? So
The dumbest thing we did is we put the sheetrock up because the walls were so horrific we couldn't take it. And then we realized that the joist underneath, one of the joists was rotting. And so we had to jack the house up and fix the joist underneath. So we did all the sheetrock work in the kitchen, and then we had to jack the joist up, and the whole thing just went.
oh my
It
goodness.
was like a giant crack. The whole wall's cracked.
Wow.
So that's the one thing we made a mistake on. The rest of it went pretty good.
To this day, you guys are still fixing things
That's
up.
what we do.
That's
We
what you
flip
do.
tons of houses. But we enjoy it. But doing the work back then was a stress reliever, honestly, because we were going through such a transition that going home and working on it was fun. We enjoyed the whole process together. We learned a ton, and then we did a bunch of other houses like that. So, anyways,
That's awesome. And now you both have all these wonderful life skills.
right?
Another article that I had found that I talked to the young man about was about tips for first-time home buyers. And so kind of like you said, the number one thing you want to make sure you find the right home for you. And this person also had a family home that there was a possibility he could buy it. And he said he probably could get it at a pretty good deal. But just like you said, there was a lot of work to be done, and the electrical needed to be updated to code, and just every room needed to be renovated. And he said, I just don't know that I'm up for all that. And so he's thought about that and tried to decide he's like, I could learn and I could do some of it, but do I really want to take on that much? You want to compare your down payment options and your loan types with different down payments. If you put 20% down on a conventional loan, then you won't have to pay the PMI or the private mortgage insurance. But there's a lot of loans out there where you can put down as little as 5%. If you're a VA, be sure you check out. If you haven't used your VA qualification, you can get loans. Then you want to calculate how much home you can afford. The person that I had spoke with, they had given him a pre-approval that was pretty high, and he said it was kind of a little bit out of what he was really wanting to spend. So even though the bank approves you for a certain amount, doesn't mean that you have to buy that big of a house. And just because on paper it looks like you can afford it doesn't mean that, maybe it's going to be comfortable for you. He had said, I could probably make this work, but I'm going to have to change a lot of my lifestyle. So are you willing to, stop going out to eat, stop doing, things on the weekend maybe, and really
Enjoying your home.
Yes, just to live in your home. So you want to make sure that you look at all those different aspects of it, because it may not be worth it to, be house poor. Compare different mortgage lenders, and then be sure you get pre-qualified. That'd be the worst, to go looking for a house, and then if you can't get qualified for some reason, you have to work on your credit. I found an article about the housing market. I've had several people ask about that that have come in. They're trying to figure out if they should sell their house, if they should downsize. And from everything that I've read, this is an article from the Ramsey website that the housing market is just a prediction, so it can only give you an idea. But experts predict a post-pandemic rebound. So we're talking about steady mortgage rates, job recoveries, and the law of supply and demand all working together to spark a match that will make the home sales go kaboom. So they figured that 2020 had a slow start to it, but picked up with home sales, and they expect 2021 to continue. The housing market predictions in this article from the Ramseys was existing home sales will increase by 9%, newly built home sales up 21%, and your home prices could go up 8%. So that's great to keep in mind, that the house you're sitting on hopefully will continue to increase, and it could increase as much as 8% this year, according to the predictions. But it does say that the homes listed for sale are down 22% compared to last year. So there's more houses more people that are looking for houses, but less homes available. So it said like the typical day on market was 21 days the houses were selling.
It's crazy.
And I know I've had several people that have bought houses or sold houses, and they've said they've just, they get it on the realtors kind of know about it ahead of time. And so like the first day they get it listed, people are there looking at it, and they get 2 or 3 offers on it. So that's the other thing. If you are looking at a house and you go look at it, you better put an offer in fast if you think that's the house for you.
So if you're looking to buy a house that's a fixer-upper, there's a program in Macon regarding historic tax credits. I haven't talked about this for a long time and just reminded me of this. So contact Newtown Macon because they are on the pulse of this. So there were buildings downtown, like the building that we're renovating right now, we could have gotten historic tax credits if we followed the Historic Society's recommendations of how we built it out. And we did not agree with what they wanted us to do, so we're not getting any of those tax credits.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted us to keep the walls up and they wanted us to keep the windows the same, and we're like, no.
Do they pick paint colors? I read somewhere, like in some neighborhoods, you have certain paint colors you have to go with.
Yes. So Vineville, the last I heard, is homes in the Vineville community were also included now in the historic tax credit area. So you could find an older home in Vineville. Call Newtown and ask them about which ones are available and which areas are fall under the historic tax credits. But you could buy an investment property, and it has to be an investment property that you're turning into a rental typically. So because you have to have there are restrictions and rules of how to do this. But call Newtown Macon because it can be a really good deal. There are people, in fact, an example. So Newtown Macon is on Poplar Street. They bought their building. The bottom line is, because we went through the whole class of everything in Newtown Macon of renovating a historic building, which they offer periodically, that I highly recommend if you're going to buy a historic building and renovate it. You learn a ton. They basically ended up buying their building for $68,000, and it's worth over $2 million, and it has 11 rental units.
Holy cow.
Yes,
That's
it is
awesome.
a huge thing. But you have to be willing to do the work, and you have to follow the rules. So we looked hard at that for a couple of years, doing something like that, and it was overwhelming to us on top of everything else we're doing, and so we didn't go there. But if you're interested, there are properties in Vineville, last I heard, that qualify, and so it could be simply a duplex or a rental house. It doesn't have to be a giant building downtown. It can be another kind of building. But they're the people that are on top of all of that. And there are calculations that you have to use that they will teach you on how to figure out what your tax credits would be and how much you actually will pay for the property based on the renovation cost and based on the rents that you'd receive. So it's amazing.
Wonderful. So yeah, if you guys want any more information on that, email Sherri or Sherri, Sherri at rfmoney.com, or Becca, Becca at rfmoney.com, and we'll be happy to get you information. Along those lines, I'd read something that they said they expect, they're predicting in 2021 the amount of the foreclosures could double compared to last year. So because of people losing jobs, people being out of work, and so I guess they feel like connected to the pandemic. So if you are looking for a house for a fixer-upper, be on the lookout. Some banks have listings for foreclosures, and like Sherri said, you could find a house that it's probably going to need some tender loving care and some fixer-uppers, but it definitely might be an opportunity to find a good deal on that. The other thing that the young man I talked about, he had a lot of questions about his FICO score, and he wanted,
great.
Yes, he wanted to know
that he even knew it existed. Yay!
Yes, he was very concerned about it. And we talked through. He wanted to know what the difference would be if he paid off those student loans or he kept paying on them. And so I found an article and just wanted to kind of go through it, just explain what's in your FICO score. There's 5 different components that make up a FICO score.
They should teach this in high school.
They really should.
I mean, really. Whatever happened to home ec and all that kind of basic common sense stuff?
They used to teach people to cook. I don't even know if they do that anymore.
Nope, they don't do that at all. Nope.
So your FICO score is your credit score. I think 90% of lenders use the score for deciding your credit worthiness. The number one category in your FICO score is your payment history. So 35% of your score is your payment history. Your lender wants to know whether you've paid your past things on time, your past credit accounts, and if you're going to keep paying on time. 30% of your FICO score is the amounts that you owe. So do you have really high balances on your credit cards? It also compares to your available credit. So maybe you have 5 or 6 credit cards and you have a couple $100s on each one, but you still have a lot of available credit. That's what they're looking at. How much do you owe compared to the balances? 15% is your length of credit history. So the longer you have had accounts open, it can help your FICO score. But But even if people haven't had, for students that haven't had their credit for years, they will kind of reevaluate how they look at that, because obviously, if you're only 20, you couldn't have had credit for 15 years. I had also spoke to another person that had a really weird situation. Their credit score dropped, and they were really upset. It dropped about 50 points, and their Lowe's card had been closed, and that's the only thing different on their credit report. This Lowe's account was about 20 years old, and so it was their oldest credit history. Well, it had still been open, but they hadn't used it for years, and they have just started building a house, so they figure they're going to probably start using the card for buying things for the home, but it got closed. And her score dropped 50 points. Wow. They never sent her a letter, and she's been on the phone with Lowe's 2 different times, talked to every supervisor she could find, begging them to reopen it because she's in the middle of building that house, and so she's worried about her score going down because of this Lowe's card. And so if you do have a credit card, I have this one Discover card I got when I first got to college years and years ago, and I have made sure to keep using that card over the years. And like right now, I don't have a balance or anything, and I haven't used it in probably 3 or 4 or 6 months, so I need to probably go use it again. But keep that oldest credit active, because if you look back, I have almost 30 years of credit history now, and that one card will always be on there. So if you have, your student loans can help with that, but eventually loans will fall off your credit report after 7 years. Sometimes they won't stay on there, because I'm sure my student loans have fallen off years and years ago. So be aware of that your credit history, it can be impacted if you close out some of your oldest accounts that you have. Maybe you have an old Sears or Penny's accounts, although I'm not even sure if you use your Sears card anywhere anymore.
That was the first credit card I got. They sent it to me in the mail, and I was broke. I was working in mental health in Boise, Idaho, and my car, I was having to put 3 quarts of oil in my car every Friday just so it would run.
Oh, no.
Because I couldn't afford to take it to a shop, and I was living in the cheapest apartment I could find, and I had like $20 extra at the end of every week after I bought groceries.
Oh, goodness.
And I mean, this is where I started eating the same thing every day. I'd make a pot of soup on Sunday, and I would eat the same thing every night of the week, every week, because it was the cheapest thing I could get. So, because I just wasn't making any money in mental health at a hospital. So I get the Sears card in the mail with a $75, I'll never forget it, $75 limit. And my battery in my car went out. So I went to Sears, and I had them replace the battery. And they charged me, this is back in, God knows, 35 years ago. They charged me $75 for, no, maybe it was $120. I can't, they charged me a lot for a battery, which I didn't realize until later that I totally got ripped off by them. And while I was there getting a battery, they kept trying to sell me other stuff. It took them like 3 hours to install a battery in my car.
Oh, goodness. So now we have AutoZone for that.
Right. And so I just was stupid, and I'd never dealt with car repairs or maintenance until I was out on my own, and they ripped me off, and then I was making payments now for a battery. With
for like
interest.
a year or something.
Oh, God. It was so stupid. It was horrible.
But hey, at least you got around.
Yeah, I could get to work. Yeah, that's kind of important. But yeah, you can make really dumb choices when you're young and you don't understand how stuff works. So don't assume that your kids and your grandkids understand this stuff, because they can get in over their heads so easy. And now that they're still promoting credit cards on college campuses, they made it illegal on campus, but off campus, it's all over the place still. They're pitching all these credit cards and get a free T-shirt if you sign up and all that garbage.
It's amazing what college kids will do for a free T-shirt.
Right. And then you get the card, and it's got this limit on it that's like, oh, let's go party. Hey. And then you owe this bill every month, and it's a nightmare. So just talk to your kids about it and your grandkids, and make sure they understand what not to do and how to be smart, how to make their credit work. Get online, help them look at their FICO score if they have credit. Help them out, because no one ever talked to me about this stuff. I had no clue how anything worked. I didn't know what everybody was doing. And so I just was stupid. I mean, I didn't know back then.
And I found that so many people take advice from their friends, and so they'll hear something, and if your friend, you think they know what they're talking about, you take that as, the word, and that's truth. And I've had so many people ask me about, things, and they're so far off, and like there's maybe a little tiny spark of truth to it, but it's off. So be sure you're asking the right people. Google it. Google 2 or 3 different sources. Get a hold of Sherri, or I will be happy to help. To round out the FICO score, the 10% is your credit mix. and that is your mix of credit cards, retail accounts, installment loans, finance company accounts, and mortgage loans. And so you don't necessarily have to have all of them, but if you just have credit cards, that could hurt your score. So they're looking that you have a mix, you have a variety of different types of credit, and then new credit is 10% of your FICO score. So if you've opened several accounts in a short amount of time, that can kind of hurt your score. You get points taken off for inquiries and anytime you open a new account, because they know that you're going to be taking on more debt. So, and the young man I've been talking to said this is crazy because I've never heard this. He said he did 2 pre-approvals for his mortgage loan, and his score went down 25 points. What? And usually like 5 points at the most. And I even found an article from Experian that said usually 5 points or less if you have good credit. And so I don't know. And I looked up, is there a way to can you challenge this? And there's really nothing you can do. You just have to take it. And that's the horrible part about FICO score is you're kind of at the mercy of your creditors and what they report to each credit report company. And, you just got to keep paying everything on time, do the best you can with it. But there's some things that you just are beyond your control, like that lady in her Lowe's card and this person, and I don't know why, 25 points just for a mortgage inquiry.
Oh, and we went on a trip. We went to Warren Buffett's conference a few years ago, and one of our favorite artists had a gallery in Omaha, and we bought a large photograph for our living room wall. It was expensive, but we got 25% off because we were there with Warren Buffett's conference. So we went ahead and got it, had it shipped here. My score dropped immediately because it was a large purchase. And so I paid it off, with cash the next month, but it still hit me over the head. And I was shocked at that because it was an outlier type of expenditure.
Right, and it was so big at that one time.
Yeah, so you go on a trip, you pay for a cruise, you pay for a whole package vacation or something, it's possible to take a hit. Just make sure that you can pay it off the next month. You don't want to carry that balance or it's going to really hurt you going forward. The other thing I saw that was interesting is Experian can raise your FICO score instantly. So get credit for bills like your phone, utilities, and popular streaming services free with Experian Boost. Access your free Experian credit report and FICO score. Includes Experian credit monitoring and alerts. So average users of Experian Boost improve their FICO score 8 based on Experian data by 12 points. So if you're struggling with a few things on your credit, this might be worth doing. And so they passed this law a couple of years ago, and I just hadn't heard anything about it. And they say Experian is the only credit bureau that is doing this, or credit reporting agency.
Yeah, I thought it's really cool because, I was in banking probably, 8 or 9 years ago, and they always talked about, well, don't I get credit for my good bank account or my utilities? Yeah, they're always like, people would come in and say, well, I pay my rent on time or my utilities. I know I get credit for that. And I'm like, well, they don't show up on your credit report.
Well, but now they do.
Yes, it's amazing that finally, after all these years.
So for the first time ever, get credit for your Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO, phone, and utility bills only with Experian Boost. So you connect the bank accounts you use to pay your bills. Your information remains private. Choose and verify the positive payment history you want added to your credit file. So don't add things that you're late on.
Yes, be selective about what you're adding.
And then see your Boost results instantly. So unlike credit repair companies, Experian Boost is completely free and can increase your credit score fast. Credit repair may cost you thousands of dollars, which really doesn't exist. It's all a scam.
All a fraud and a scam, yes.
Yeah, the only help fix blah, blah, blah. But anyways, Experian Boost. If you have a young person in your life that needs a little help with their credit, maybe they don't have any credit and they're trying to establish credit, but they have a phone bill, that'd be a great way to get it started.
And they probably have a Netflix bill.
Probably.
Or Hulu.
Right? Unless they're borrowing someone else's account.
Well, that's true, too. Seems like there's a lot of sharing on those that go around.
Anyways.
Do you want to talk about the Amazon thing before we finish out today?
What was that about?
The Amazon, they were trying to get a union in there.
Yeah, that didn't work. So I was really proud of the employees at Amazon for shutting down the whole union thing in, let me see, where is this? Bessemer, Alabama. So they took a vote to join a union or not, and the majority of the employees voted against the union because they said everything this union is offering we can do ourselves. I was listening to Ben Shapiro on the way home yesterday, and he was basically read this entire article on the air Workers in favor of the union said they hoped it would help improve their working conditions, provide better job security and benefits. But they already have great benefits, and their hourly pay starts at $15.30 an hour, which is
That's pretty good.
One of the highest in the whole area. So, like, these are jobs that might be kind of tough because you're lifting boxes and stuff, but you're making more money than you're going to make anywhere else in the town.
Yeah, it's like low cost of living there, so that $15 goes a long way.
Right? So it says, yeah, Amazon is already about the best paying job a non-skilled laborer can get in Alabama. Yeah, because you have to have no education, and they already get health care, and they have a retirement plan. And so the concept was that the union was going to, if they approved the union was going to push Amazon to raise wages. Well, guess what happens when you force a company to pay more in wages? You lose jobs.
Yeah.
Because they can get robots to do some things that maybe people are doing.
So they find ways around it. They replace you.
So the people were smart. And if you want to look at a good book, historical fiction book that talks about how unions started in this country, read Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle. I looked to see if I had a copy on my shelf, and I don't know what happened to it, but you can probably pick it up at Gottwall's for nothing. It was written in 1906, and it explains how unions were started in this country to protect workers that were being extremely abused. It's an incredible historical fiction book, and it's based on the true story. So, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, if you're interested in historical fiction, to learn about how unions started in this country. And CT, we're down to like a minute.
It's time to go, huh?
Already, that's went fast. So you've been listening to news, Becca Wilton, Sherri Goss. We're with Rosenberg Financial Group. Our website is retirerelax.com. Check us out, request an appointment, or give us a call, 922-8100. We'd love to meet with you. We're not going to charge anything. We'll help you make good decisions in retirement.
Have a great weekend.
Yay.
The views expressed on this show should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities are offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Rosenberg Financial Group, a registered investor advisor not affiliated with Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Offices are located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, and 4875 Riverside Drive, Suite 201 in Macon. Phone numbers are 922-8100 and 741-4457.